So I conducted a poll a little while ago, and it seems like a lot of people wanted me to pull Farina. Now I don't have enough Primo Gems to guarantee a Farina, but with 13,000 Primo Gems and 15 Fates, I should be able to get her. Alright, so let's go. Charlotte and Ningguang. Do keep in mind that this is a free-to-play account, so any 4 stars that I get are actually quite good, because you don't have a large supply of Primo Gems. So there's the first 5 star. Let's see if I win my first 50-50 on this account. And it looks like we did. Okay, so I was getting a little bit scared there because I was approaching pity and I hadn't hit a 5 star yet. But yeah, there we go, Farina. Can't go wrong with a Hydro Archon, and it's definitely going to give a lot of direction on this account. So that's enough polling for now. I will save my Primo Gems for a future character. On this account, I will try to be a little bit more proactive about who I'm going to use. So yeah, that was my first 5 star on this account. As you can see here, the rest of my lineup is all 4 stars, but here, I finally got my first 5 star. So I think I'm going to use something like this for now. I can definitely switch up the team if I want, but let's go upgrade our new Fontanian friends. Now, I'm assuming most of you watching this know what Farina does, but basically she just saps HP from your team and buffs them up like crazy, so it's really recommended that you run her with a healer. You could technically get away without running a healer if you use her, but it's recommended that you use a healer because she basically just cripples your team. And yeah, her self-sustain is not really the best, but you technically can self-sustain with her, it's just really hard to do so. So I had to switch teams because using a level 1 Farina and Charlotte against this thing is probably not a good idea. So far it doesn't look that difficult, but that's probably just because it's Xiangling doing her thing. Let's ascend Farina. Now obviously when you get a character to level 20, you do not need the boss material, but it's always good to preemptively get it. Now I don't exactly remember what her collectible materials are called, but I do remember everybody spam joining my world because they needed them. And being the extremely nice person that I am, I let everybody in my world. They joined my world just to find out that I didn't have any left because everybody else took them. So unlocking the statue there are a few over here. There's also some around this lake over here. So I think I'm gonna go around to this location first. Looks a little bit easier. Also, when Fontaine released, I did not expect it to be as hilly as it normally is. Is that even a word? Well, anyway, yeah. Fontaine has a lot of hills. So there are the lilies on the left over here, as well as on the right side over here. So I'm just gonna go around and collect as many as I can. I could be a little bit patient on this count. I don't have to collect all of them at once, but let's just try to collect a few just to get her to at least maybe level 50, and we should be good to go from there. Also, this lake area that pushes you when you don't move, there's actually something that's pretty funny, which is it pushes you up hills as well. So you can say that Xiao has been power crept because he has a climbing passive that decreases stamina, and this thing helps you climb anyway, so what's the point in having Xiao at that point? So that should be enough to get her to level 20. For the next ascension, you're going to need the boss material, as well as more of the lake-like lilies, so yeah, let's go get more. After I ascend Farina, I'm also going to ascend Charlotte a little bit, just because I think building more than one healer is always nice to have, especially for various amounts of teams that you plan to use. Okay, and then there's one last major area with a lot of the lake-like lilies over here by Foggy Forest Path. Now, Farina's material is actually not that bad. There's just not that many of them on the map. I believe there's only 70, but they are pretty close to each other, so you can just collect them in bulk. And if you need more, you can always join your friends' worlds. Or random strangers if you don't have friends like me. Anyway, there's a bunch of them here, and you can just collect them in bulk, unlike scarabs that are scattered everywhere. They're probably going to make other Fontaine characters use the lake-like lilies, so it's always good to just collect a little bit of extra, even if you don't need it, just in case. So looking at this ascension, looks like I need to defeat the Hydrotopla 2 times and then just get a few more of these Hydro Crystals. So let's go and do that. Let's also activate these constellations I got for Kale as well, just in case I forget. Not to mention also giving her bow back. I think a lot of people made a pretty big mistake when bringing Hydro to this boss for the first time. Seems pretty logical that it is immune to Hydro, but there's actually some bosses that are their specific type and they're not immune to it. For example, things like the Cryo Witch is fine. It's not immune to Cryo, even though it's Cryo. But a boss like this is definitely immune to its own element. So you can call Xingqiu, Yelan, Farina, whatever, all the Hydro characters as broken as you want, but they can't damage this thing, so good luck with that. Your best bet for this boss is just to use either Pyro or Cryo, they're both really good. Electro is also okay, but you definitely just want to stick with either Pyro or Cryo. Now I do find this boss a little bit annoying just because it moves around. I don't like bosses that excessively move around. It's not as bad as things like the Ruin Serpent or the Wee Nut, but it's still a boss that if you use a really big skill or burst, it can move around and just completely dodge all your damage. So you have to time your attacks a little bit carefully. I also got an achievement from that. Stop the Hydro Tulpa from absorbing half Tulpas twice in one challenge. Oh. So that's one, and then I will wait for it to respawn and fight it again. So while I wait for it to respawn, let me go and collect Charlotte's material as well. So Charlotte uses the conches that are underwater, and you can get quite a lot of them because they're pretty common. Also, was anyone else confused when they explored underwater in Fontaine for the first time? I was kind of confused with the absorbing powers mechanic first, but after you get used to it, you know which ones are which. Exploration in Underwater Fontaine was actually a little bit confusing at first, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty fun. Most of the conches are in areas like here, here, here. Yeah, it really just depends on where you've explored on the map. For the most part though, it's not really that difficult to get. So this is the last time I'll have to fight it for now. I'll stop at level 60, and then in the coming videos, I will upgrade Farina to level 80. So that's 4 out of 4. Let's get Farina to level 60. Oh, I forgot. I need these as well. Let's go to the crafting bench. Alright, so here we go. 2 of these crystals over here. And it should be enough to get her to level 60. It definitely is important to invest in healers when you use Farina, just because due to the nature of how her kit works, your characters are going to be beat up a lot, so you're going to want, ideally, team-wide healers. And Charlotte is a pretty good candidate for that. So let's see what we can build on Farina for now. So looking at weapon choice for Farina, it's definitely Sacrificial Sword. The other swords that I have don't really do anything on her. The Flute and Lion's Roar are attack percentage, and she doesn't really use that. And physical damage bonus, well, I'm sure you can figure that one out. Now as for artifacts, I haven't really done that much artifact farming on this account, so I'm probably just going to use random garbage on her until I can get better pieces. So this is what I'm going to go with, crit rate a little bit, and instructor, HP, hydro damage, crit rate. So yeah, let's just upgrade the artifacts a little bit so she can just dish out a little bit more damage. I also have a little bit of Star Rail Brain Rot. Level 6 gives you another substat breakpoint, and for some reason my brain was anticipating that. So yeah, if you play Star Rail, you know exactly what I'm talking about. HP. This is actually pretty good on her. She uses a lot of HP. Although it is flat HP, but still HP. Now as for talents, today is not Justice Book Day, so I cannot upgrade her talents. But seeing as I'm kind of in the mid stages of the game, still a little bit on the early side, I don't think it's really that big of a deal right now. And plus Farina is just a Hydro Archon, so she's broken either way. But now that she's a little bit upgraded, I can start using her in my party. So let's see here. Maybe I can just use her as a solo healer right now. As long as I'm not fighting any bosses, I think it's fine. Okay, next let's get Charlotte upgraded. Her boss is somewhere over here, which is covered up because I don't have the statue yet. Also, a really cool thing that they did in the recent patch was you can now fight a weekly boss without having to do any of the prerequisite quests. Now this is really useful if you're just one of those people who are way too lazy to do quests as soon as a patch drops, but you still want to access the loot. I also think this is a really good change for new players because, well, if you're starting in Mondstadt and you need to ascend a character that's all the way in Sumeru or Fontaine, it's going to be a very long time before you're actually able to upgrade them, so Playverse took some steps to make that a little bit easier, which is nice. Going to test out Farina here real quick to see what it's like. I don't expect that much out of it because I haven't optimized anything, but she's an Archon. Can't go wrong with an Archon. So yeah, definitely supporting the team, but I'm going to need a healer to go with her. People are saying you don't really want to use the form that heals just because you can just run another healer, but I think it has some pretty good uses if you don't want to run a different healer and you have other means of staying alive. But anyway, let's fight Charlotte's boss over here. I could also just stick with Verena and Barbara, but like I said earlier, I think it's pretty good to mix up healers every now and then, just in case you need them for separate teams. Also, when this boss first came out, I was so confused on how to dodge this thing. Every single time it would happen, I would just completely miss or mistime it, and I would just get hit by it. And yeah, I don't know. For some reason, my brain just couldn't comprehend the timing of it. But I think after fighting it for a few times, I've gotten used to it. So anyway, let's level up Charlotte now, because the game gave us C1, so we might as well use it. So it looks like I need 5 more barrel conches and some of these gears. Yeah, so let's go get some of those materials. Also, if you take a look here, Verena level 60, 13,000 HP with very bad artifacts, and without double hydro. Kinda goes to show how much HP she actually has. So here we go, barrel conches. Basically, when you go to a lot of teleport waypoints, you're going to run into these just because they're pretty common. They're definitely not on the list of the most annoying materials to collect. In fact, I think barrel conches are pretty easy. When you think of annoying materials, the first thing that comes to mind for me are scarabs, as well as violet grass. Chingshin is also pretty bad, but not as bad as violet grass. But I would hands down say that scarabs are the worst material to collect. Spectre husks could also be pretty bad, but if you're just talking about collectible materials, I would say scarabs are the worst. Also, since we're already here, let's also go unlock the domain for the books in Fontaine. Now, one thing I do appreciate about underwater exploration is that regardless of your regular stamina bar, you're always going to have the same hydro stamina bar, so you can always swim the same distance no matter what. Also, another thing to note is that Charlotte also uses justice books like Verena does, so it could also explain why Charlotte hasn't really been that hyped. But then again, we also have a bunch of 4 stars that are supports that are cryo as well, so maybe people are used to Diona or something. And now it's time to get some gears. A lot of Fontaine characters use the gears, so I think it's good just to stock up on them and just keep a lot of them around. If you explore Fontaine, you're obviously going to have a lot of them anyway, but right now it's just going to be hunting down some of the clockwork monsters. Also, unlike Nobushi, these things drop their materials at a reasonable rate, so you're not going to be running around getting half of one drop every 5 minutes like you would with handguards. Also, analyzing all the Archons now, it seems like every single one is off-field except for Raiden. Now obviously you can play them on-field if you want, but if you're trying to play them optimally, it's best played if they're all off-field. Raiden just likes to stay on-field just because of how her ultimate works. But yeah, as for the other Archons, you just swap in, use their abilities, swap out. Which is, I think, fine from a gameplay standpoint, but there's probably some people who don't like that because they want to see the Archon on field. So, I mean, it is what it is, but maybe with the Cryo Archon or the Pyro Archon, it'll be a little bit different. So this is enough to get Charlotte to 50. I think I'm going to stop here for now, just because I don't think it's a priority to upgrade her at the moment. And I'll also need to get more XP books and materials and whatnot. So for right now, I'm just going to stop here for upgrading characters. Okay, so let's build Charlotte. Now Charlotte isn't normally played as a DPS, but I'm just going to build her as a DPS because why not? Now I can't upgrade this any further because I have to wait for the day of the domain, so on to artifacts. So just like before, I think same thing as Arena, just gonna put random garbage artifacts on her until I can get better pieces for later. Double crit piece on a 4-star artifact. Crazy stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this is going to be my team for a little while. Definitely we'll switch it up, but now that I have a 5-star, I'll be able to play around Verena, so yeah, it'll give me a lot more direction on where to go on this account. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.